Good morning. This is Infusion number 2 for the entrepreneurial mindset. And I would say that chapter 11 surprised me. I really appreciate them taking the time and putting in the chapter that views entrepreneurship as something realistic. You're going to fail, it's going to happen, but how you deal with and manage that failure is what sets a successful entrepreneur aside, or entrepreneur or socialpreneur apart from somebody that's not successful and does not go and make their dreams happen essentially. So really appreciated chapter 11 because it was like a reality check. Like, it's perfectly okay for shit not to work. So when you fail, you need to one, fail fast and fail often. A failure is not a sign that you aren't cut out to be an entrepreneur. It's a sign that you are out there and you're doing entrepreneurship. You're learning from the mistakes that you're making and you're tweaking as you go along to build the best possible outcomes. I would say that when we are talking about failure, that it all depends on how you respond to it. It's one of those things that is going to happen. At that point of failure, are you going to pivot? Do you need to move your business model to a new team? Maybe the team that you're with is not appropriate for the project that you want to do. Do you need a new customer segment? Does your product maybe is better suited for another? Maybe you have a product that you wanted to market to teenagers, but maybe you find out that is actually would serve a better market to high school students or college students. Do you need a new value proposition? Is the way that you're explaining your value a right fit for your product? Another thing I would say would be, do you need to just go into a whole new market? Um, are your sales leveling off? Is your company in danger of failing or coming to a halt or a standstill? Then at that point, then you know that maybe you need to make a pivot. So if you're failing, a failure is definitely not one of those things that um, is going to allow you. It's like you're either going to crash and burn or you're going to rise from the ashes and you keep going. A lot of companies will say that they failed if they hit bankruptcy. Yeah, okay, you might have failed, but let's go back and see what was wrong with that model. So when you look at a failure spectrum, I really strongly believe that, yeah, you may fail, but I feel like every failure is a lesson learned. It gives you a chance to look in retrospect. What could I have done differently, and what I'm going to do differently moving forward to ensure that that does not happen again? I would say that through this Cop and Mountain project, failed a few times, multiple times. There's some partners that we weren't able to bring on board because the value proposition, they didn't see a value in being connected to Coppin State University Department of Natural Sciences as this hub, and they want to work by themselves. So, for example, I met with Jason McCormick, sent me a list of people that he recommended that I reach out to. We were able to bring on board Baltimore City Public Schools. We were able to bring on board a couple other people that he recommended, but the United Way, our value proposition wasn't strong enough to be able to bring them on board. So in that sense, it was a failure, but it allowed me to go back and make sure that when I'm looking at my value proposition, that I'm spending the right amount of time researching that potential partner and making sure that I frame that value proposition in a way that essentially my customer that I'm trying to target can't say no. So this chapter definitely spoke to me, especially coming across this term grit. I think that going through all your failures when you're going, they're growing pains essentially when you're trying to be the successful entrepreneur, and you're gonna hit bumps and bruises along the way. You're gonna fail. You might have to go through a bankruptcy. Hell, you might lose a couple $1,000s along the way. But I think that all of that builds character. It builds grit, which is pretty much defined as you being able to persevere and focus on that long-term goal, even when you have cuts and scrapes and bumps and bruises along the way that, the growing pains of being an entrepreneur is going to take you through. So far, I'm definitely liking this book. It was a shocker to me that we had to use a textbook for this class. However, I'm definitely seeing the value in having the textbook, and especially chapter 11, because it lets me know that, okay, this is common, it's going to happen, it's okay. Just make sure you are still moving forward and making sure that you're using failures as lessons learned. See you tonight.